In today's video, we're putting the spotlight on some of the sneakiest, most mischievous, and downright evil villains you'll ever meet. Usually villains are the ones that we root against, right? But here's the thing, in the Dogman books, they're more than just bad guys. They're kind of like the secret sauce that make the story so good. So here are why Dogman books would never be the same without these villains, and what we can learn from them. First up, we've got the OG villain, Petey the cat. My boy Petey is obviously a genius, but sometimes his cleverness takes him down the wrong path. Petey's journey to the dark side began when he was banned from the Critter Scouts as a kid. Then his dad abandoned, and after that his mom tragically passed away. After a life of crime, Lil Petey finally inspired him to be good and do good. So what can we learn from Petey? Well, it's all about using your smarts for good, not for evil. It won't always be easy, but Petey's journey teaches us that change is possible, and redemption is within our reach, no matter your past mistakes. His transformation from an innocent kitten to an evil mastermind and then to a caring and incredible father really shows us the power of second chances. And then there's Flat Petey. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this, but I really think Dave Filkey's trying to show us that sometimes our own selves can be our biggest foes. I know that in the book Flat Petey is separate from the real Petey, but I think this shows how sometimes one side of you is good and the other might tempt you to be not so good. Or like in Dogman Unleashed, maybe both sides of you are not so good. Well, I hope not. All in all, Flat Petey reminds us that the line between good and bad can sometimes get blurry, so you should always question your choices. But now, let's talk about Grandpa, the mastermind behind many crazy moments in the Dogman books. Grandpa's relationship with Petey and Lil Petey is complicated, to say the least. And even though Dogman's a fictional series, this scenario is true for many real-life family relationships. Grandpa's presence reminds us that sometimes family relationships won't be straightforward, but if we stay kind and understanding, things will always end up on the good side. On the other hand, we have definitely seen Grandpa challenge authority figures throughout the series, and even though this literally never turns out well for Grandpa, he also shows us that sometimes it's okay to stand up for what you believe in, when it's the right thing to do, of course. Obviously, do not throw a chair at your teacher or something just because you don't like getting homework on Fridays, but sometimes standing up for yourself in a respectful way is the right thing to do, and in a legal way, I should add. Flippy the fish is up next, and he is definitely a roller coaster of good and evil. Even though he had crazy psychonetic powers in Unleashed, his downfall showed us that no matter how strong you may be, if you don't have a heart, you're done for. And ever since he went through a lot of character development, Flippy has been an amazing dad to 21 awesome baby frogs. So Flippy just shows us that your strength should always be used wisely. Now, let's go back to book 1 and talk about the evil mayor. Even back in the early Dogman days when the plot wasn't all that complicated, the evil mayor still had some evil plans up her sleeve. She teamed up with Dr. Scum to create RoboChief, aiming to take control of the city and turn it into a criminal extravaganza. However, things didn't go as planned. Petey managed to destroy RoboChief using his smart. I mean, even then we knew how genius he was. Later on, Dogman catches Petey, who was then a bad guy, and during a cop awards ceremony, Dogman really exposed the mayor's true intentions, thanks to some pretty good video evidence. And soon enough, she was in jail. So the evil mayor pretty much teaches us about the consequences of our actions. It's a lesson that being mean and rude, even when others don't see you, won't always lead you to success. But now, let's talk about her partner, Dr. Scum. Even though he caused a ton of chaos on multiple occasions, Dr. Scum proves that having creativity and innovating can get you lots of success, even if it doesn't last long. Another character that definitely faces the consequences of their actions is the Fair Fairy. When we first meet her, she looks like your regular, kind granny who teaches kids to share in her TV show. But after the kids seem to never stop arguing, she gets completely triggered and demolishes their bowls of ice cream and toys. Oh, and she tells them that now they get nothing. I mean, she's kinda right. She kinda reminds me of that teacher who means well but can lose her cool pretty easily. Anyways, the Fair Fairy demonstrates how important kindness and understanding really is. She's a walking and talking, or yelling, reminder to take a deep breath and think before we react. Unless you want to take a trip to the granny jail. But now, let's move on to one of the most popular villains of the entire series, Piggy. Piggy is so loved by the Dogman community since he actually poses a threat to all of the good guys. But we have to remember that he posed the biggest threat back when he had the rest of the fleas, or the friendly friends, by his side. Then when he became selfish and abandoned all of his partners in crime, villainous success came crashing down. The top takeaway from Piggy is that sometimes being too selfish can lead to your own downfall. downfall. Constantly focusing on yourself and your own interests, even at the expense of your friends, won't always lead you down the right path. I mean, it never does. Piggy shows us that we should think about others, not just ourselves, and try to find that sweet spot between always aiming for number one and also being a team player. The final villain we'll be taking a look at is Philly. In the first Dogman book, Philly, who was originally a cheesesteak statue, was brought to life by the leader Hot Dog. And since the Hot Dog is bent on revenge against Petey, he persuades him to join his Hot Dog army in a mission to take over the world. Philly just flat out follows the Hot Dog's lead without even considering whether or not what he's doing is right, or even if he just agrees with it. I mean, I can't really complain too much about his intelligence, since 2 seconds ago he was literally a statue of a cheesesteak. But regardless, Philly shows us that sometimes we should take a second to consider if what we're doing is right and if it aligns with our values. So even though most of these villains are evil to the core, we can still learn many important lessons from them. But now it's your turn. Which of these villains do you think adds the most spice to these stories? The most action, laughs, and romance? Who is your favorite villain? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. But if you want to find out if you're a true expert on Dogman villains, check out this quiz right here, and I'll see you around.